Okay, back to Giselle. I didn't really understand Michelle, but that was probably because we're still essentially strangers. Having been sent to the mansion as reparation for my mistakes, I wasn't sure who I might find there. But I was tentatively convinced he wasn't a terrible person. He didn't do anything to me except stay away. Michelle spent most of his time in his chambers, which he had told me to never enter under any circumstances, so we rarely encountered one another in the halls. For that reason, I made an effort to be kind and cheerful on the sporadic occasions we did cross paths. I figured if I kept that long enough, he would eventually warm up to me. And as new housemates, being able to enjoy our time together was obviously preferable to the alternative. If I did manage to break the ice, I hoped we would be able to do some talking about the mansion, about him, and about me. I just had to keep working at it. Very optimistic, very energetic, Giselle. Which is a lot different from what I imagine what the maid usually is. But Michelle didn't need me to take care of him. He handled his own day-to-day needs and activities by himself. In fact, he didn't ask me for anything. An aristocrat who had no use for his servant. I hadn't met anyone like him before. Alright then. That meant about all I could do was clean. I wasn't sure how his room looked, but the rest of the house was quite frankly an absolute disaster. The dust was so heavy it was obvious it had been touched in years. Let's get started. It couldn't be healthy to live in these conditions, so I set out to clean each room of the house one by one. That said, it wasn't going to be an easy task. Not because I was bad at cleaning. In fact, I considered myself quite good at it. But because it was near impossible to find all the dust and grime that needed cleaning under the flickering light of a candle. I can't understand how anyone sane could live in this dark. What's wrong with him? Maybe he's actually a vampire. That's why I said about a lot of things. Actually, about the maid and about the white-haired girl. And about Michelle as well. Never turns out to be true, though, it seems. Oh god, wouldn't that be something? I can see it now. Him sneaking out every night to suck the blood of pretty girls. Priceless. Well, that means I'm in trouble. Oh, look at me. Miss One-Woman Comedy Show here. Yep. If I am able to get him to warm up to me, though, maybe I'll give me a little more room to make some changes. Like opening some windows. No light and no fresh air. No thank you. Anyway, I set the candlestick down, pulled over a chair to stand on, and started wiping down the shelf. The chair's legs seemed to be uneven, as it wobbled slightly beneath me. So many books. I wonder, do they all belong to him? I knew parchment was expensive, but it was rather astounding seeing this many stacks of it in one place. There were even some books with bulky, extravagantly decorated covers. He does come from an esteemed family. I spent enough time at his family's home. It was a constant bustle of servants and guests, the exact opposite of what this mansion was like. Why had he left his home? Why had he done what had he done to be sent all the way out here, his remote mansion, of a less than savory reputation? I need to be careful not to overstep my bounds. I am a servant now. Servant. But once the thought had crossed my mind, I couldn't get it out. I'd always had a bad tendency to chase my curiosities as soon as they struck, pushing to scratch the itch no matter how much my actions annoyed others. I couldn't do that here, though. I was simply a servant, and if I got on Michelle's bad side, I risked getting thrown out. I wonder what kind of books he's got here. So I attempted to distract myself. I grabbed one of the books and attempted to pull it out. What? But the strings binding the parchment must have gotten tangled at the back. Whoa! Because the books on either side tilted back with it. Ah! And then the entire row came crashing down on top of me. It's like a comedy show, whatever, That's how I imagine what happens like in an anime. Ow! Oh, for cripe's sake! Cripes? I had fallen off the chair and a downpour of books was still coming down on me. A mountain of dust with it. Seriously? What are you doing? What? Suddenly, Michelle was there, looking down at me from a little ways ahead. Or a little ways away, rather. There's, as usual, not much I could read from his expression, but I could hear a vague trace of exasperation in his voice. I was doing some cleaning, and... Impressive work. I'm usually better than this. It's just so dark. Mistakes should be expected. I really think we should open some windows, Master. Get some light, some air flowing through here. I never asked you to clean anything. You did this entirely yourself. But there's so much dust! It can't be good for you. Giselle's like a completely different personality than the white-haired girl. It's funny. I'm perfectly healthy. I don't see the problem. Had he even seen himself? No way someone that skinny was perfectly healthy. You look like you have something to say. You can make up my face in this darkness. Oh, you know. I wanted to be useful, and cleaning is about all I can do here, so, you know. I was sensing something else, but alright. He let out a sigh, stepped over toward the pile of books, and then reached his hand down for me. I suddenly felt a pang of embarrassment over the fact that I was so splayed out on the floor, but I raised my hand up to take his, only for him to pick up a book instead. He could at least help me up. You have legs. You have legs. He said, casually returning the book to the top shelf. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe he was a terrible person. But just so sassy. This Michelle is so much more sassier. So, Master, are all these books yours? Giselle asked, not a trace of remorse visible on her face, despite having made a mess in the room she was supposedly trying to clean. I gave a curt nod. Really? That's impressive. Must have been hard work getting them all in here, huh? There's gotta be 100 books here. You could fill a whole carriage at least. It's like you've got your own personal library. She'd been polluting. No, not polluting. She'd been pouting only a few moments earlier, but her smile was back in short order. Her jade eyes were like little balls of curiosity, glittering in the faint candlelight. I was not particularly fond of overly expressive, or rather overly curious women. They did not care that they trampled uninviting to other people's personal spaces, or were they not even aware that their actions were invasive. I averted my gaze from hers. You know, Michelle is like super introverted. It doesn't like this. I receive one roughly every month. Oh, I see. Wait. She turned back toward the shelves. I presume she understood the implications of what I just said. By the fact there were nearly 100 tomes here, I receive only one a month. Giselle fell silent. I couldn't blame her if she thought my circumstances or my family or my life bizarre. I didn't care what she thought of me. In fact, it was to my advantage for her to be uncomfortable. I just needed her to stay quiet and keep her nose out of my business. There's more than I thought. I said not to her, but to myself. I had no reason to count the passage of time anymore. Only the books serve as a record of how long I've been here. 121! What? There are 121 books! 10 years and 1 month! You were counting. I thought she had just sheepishly gone quiet. What an inscrutable woman. You've been here in the mansion for that long? All by yourself? The truth was, there had been times when I wasn't alone, but Giselle had no need to know that. What do you mean by that? You already know the answer. A look of pity formed in Giselle's eyes. Enough. I never asked for sympathy. I never asked for this. I never asked for this. I'm here by choice. You mean you weren't banished here? No restraint this woman. No. I came here of my own volition. I didn't care enough to elaborate, though. Picking another book off the floor, I brushed the dust off its cover. It was a gaudily decorated tome. It's a very fancy book, isn't it? Apparently, Giselle was unable to take a hint. What's it about? I let out a sigh. I opened to no page in particular, sticking the book out toward her. She was a servant, and a woman. There's no way she could read. I mean, it makes sense. He's not just sexist just because he's mean, but it is true that back in the day, obviously, people who weren't nobility weren't usually educated to read, and also, obviously, women didn't always have the ability to, you know, they were, at the very least, they weren't expected to be educated to read anyway. So it's just, you know, less people who were able to read. But let's see here. This land is hardly suitable for cultivation. It can only produce over-sour grapes. I would probably get more out of it if I tore down the fields and made it into a market. That's like a lord's diary. Interesting. Oh, that's the same book that was mentioned in Mel's story. Actually, I remember. You can read. You can read? It's amazing. I was caught slightly off guard. It was rare for a noblewoman to be able to read and write, let alone a servant. Was she truly what she claimed to be? Well, I had someone to teach me. And that's true as well, you know. As rare as it is, if you really wanted to, even though if you were poor, if you spent your free time actually going to a church and asking like a monk or a priest or whatever to teach you, then, you know, you can pursue that if you wanted to. Again, it's just not really necessary, especially if you're like a farmer, I guess. It's like reading doesn't do much to like make the crops grow, so that's why most people didn't learn how to read. But I guess she did. So, is this book any interesting? I think she's a servant. I don't know, maybe she asked, I don't know, I imagine maybe she asked maybe Michelle's mother or somebody to teach her, because she was, you know, she's a very curious woman, so that's why she taught herself to read, maybe. I'm not sure. Anyway. It's dull, worthless tripe. I can imagine why anyone thought it was worth binding. Tough crowd. It's not very often you get to see a Lord's diary. I'm rather curious what kinds of things he griped about. Lord or king, what value is there in others grumbling? There's no knowledge contained within that book, just emotions, unsightly scribbles. There's nothing more exhausting in this world than being emotional. Nothing more exhausting than being emotional. I gotta say before, Michelle's basically a cool dad, eh? You know? He's like that personality archetype who is completely unemotional. But then, you know, once he falls in love, that's when he starts opening up and, you know, blah, blah, blah. If you want to read it, be my guest. That wasn't my intention, but alright. Once I've got the whole mansion clean, I'll read it. I told you, you don't have to clean. Oh, I've got an idea, Master. If you're interested, maybe we could read together. Did you hear a word I just said? It's a dull, worthless tripe. Still, you might see it differently if you read it with someone else. And I'm sure there's some books here you would enjoy, Master. You're wasting your time. The suspicion of restraint budding between us was trite and insignificant at that point. She was still smiling after all. If I had been able to maintain that distance, then perhaps I wouldn't have ended up hurting her. It had been a little under 2 weeks since I moved in with Michelle. Though we lived in the same house, we rarely saw each other. On unlucky days, I wouldn't see him at all. I wasn't sure if he ate in his room or our schedules were simply misaligned, but we never had any meals together. Perhaps he was deliberately avoiding me. That has to be it. I know servant and master don't usually eat at the same table, but even so, he could be a little less obvious about it. Not really that much of a nuisance. I'm not doing anything inappropriate, am I? I'm being pleasant and sociable, aren't I? This is when an extrovert meets an introvert. You know, it's like, well, maybe he wants some alone time as well. But I haven't given him any reason to not like me, I think. I hope. He had never been very enthusiastic about my staying here, but I hadn't been given a choice. I've been sent here by his family. Besides. No, not with the negative thoughts. Gotta stay positive. Yeah, he hasn't tried to chase me out yet. I just haven't broken the ice. I had to stay positive, optimistic, happy thoughts. Happy thoughts. And be myself. As long as I kept working at it with enough time, Michelle will surely come around and not be so distant. I've gotta go, so let's get to work. First, I make supper, then I ask him to have it with me. Gotta be proactive when it comes to reclusive types. Alright, here goes. Or here would go, but we're almost out of supplies. No, so much for that. The cellar was where the non-perishable food was stored. Dried foods, smoked meats, cheeses, and a small scattering of root vegetables. Looking at this makes me feel like a soldier hunting down a castle's fortifications. Had Michelle really gone 10 years on nothing like but this, I would have raised the white flag long ago. He said he hadn't left the mansion at all in those 10 years. I assume he at least goes out to get supplies, right? Running out of food is kind of a life or death matter. can't believe he has set foot outside even once, and what are you babbling on about? Ah! Oh no, he overheard me. I assume you were talking to someone. Huh? Does anyone else live here, Master? I haven't seen anyone. It is just the two of us. Alive, anyway. You mean there are ghosts? Something of the sort. There you go again with the jokes. I'm not a child. You're not gonna go tricking me like that. There are adults who believe in such things. I suppose. But I don't really believe in ghosts or demons or curses or any of that. The church just tries to convince people they're real so they can squeeze more money out of them. Well, that's a very progressive way of thinking, especially in 1099 when the majority of the population definitely follows the church's rules. So, it's weird, actually. Am I gonna have to turn you over to the church, you blasphemer? No. I pray every day, honest. I don't particularly carry the way. I'm returning to my chambers. Already? You didn't, come down for food? I only came down because I heard voices. A moment, please. Just wait a second. What? Our stores are almost empty. What do you normally do when you need more food? I'll happily accompany you on a trip to the market. Already? That was fast. There are two of us. I really don't eat that much, do I? In the dim light, it was difficult to make out Michelle's expression, but I thought I could see a tinge of annoyance on his face. Hold your ground, Giselle. You said you want to get closer to him. Is that, parsnip? Michelle was holding a tangled ball of roots. The reason I asked was because the parsnip looked like it was on the verge of total decomposition. See, there's still food. He then handed it to me. Wait, do you want to eat that? It's clearly seen better days. You're gonna get sick. Or are you telling me you can survive on rotten vegetables? Of course I won't eat it. I just figured you were hardy enough to survive. Who do you think I am? No, he's definitely a jerk. Or that the resulting diarrhea might reduce your appetite. You're kidding, right? You can't be serious. Anyway, we should bury that outside. Then we go purchase fresh supplies. I told you, I don't go outside. And how do you... Huh? A visitor? What could it be? Perfect timing. You're a servant, make yourself useful and go retrieve the package. There was not a delivery, but a wanderer chased them off. What package? Master? Okay. Hold on a second. What are you talking about? He's gone. What kind of delivery is he expecting? Michelle stood there unmoving, veiled in shadow. He glanced over at me, then threw his gaze at the front door. At his command, I raised the bar, pulling open the door. And it's the, Amazon delivery. After nearly 2 weeks inside, the light from the setting sun almost blinded me. The world went white, my head pounding. After a few moments of intense blinking, my eyes acclimated themselves to the evening sunlight. There was no one outside, only a crate easily large enough to fit a child. Is this package? Master? I turned back to face Michelle, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. It seemed more like he was avoiding looking at the light than at me. He's starting to seem more and more like a vampire. Not that I believe in vampires, of course. Regardless, I pray there's nothing bad in here. That's heavy. Master, could I get some help? Gee, thanks. I am a servant admittedly, but this is a lot to ask for just one girl. A little help would sure be nice. Once he's inside, close and bar the door. He said dispassionately, his head still turned toward the darkness. As you wish, Master. Once the door was shut, I found myself sucked back into the world of darkness. It hadn't been 2 weeks, but the lack of light was beginning to become my normal. The outside world growing farther and farther away. Being holed up in here is definitely not good for me. I should go for a walk sometime. Maybe plant some flowers, vegetables. Yeah, I like that idea. Maybe I can grow that old tango roots into some fresh parsnip. What else do we have to plant? It'd be great if there were some flower seeds. What are you doing? Open the box now. As you wish, master. Oh, there's food inside. In the box was a burlap sack full of berries, root vegetables, and smoked meats, as well as an assortment of bread, fruits, and wine. Aside from the fruit and bread, everything else was the same as what Michelle kept in the cellar. And buried beneath the burlap sack was a single book. 1 book a month. It really hasn't gone outside in 10 years. It appears you have begun to grasp the situation. Yeah. But why? This was delivered by someone from your house, master, wasn't it? Servant, I assume. Why would they leave without saying anything? No one wants to talk to a cursed man. In the past, they would occasionally check in on me, but that hasn't happened recently. They think you're cursed. Ah, right. You don't believe in curses? Then come up with your own explanation and excuse for them to want to stay away from me. That, for example, I killed someone. Or maybe that I'm insane. That's an interesting face. I don't think I've seen that face before. Maybe he had made that face before, but I couldn't. Regardless, I am not normal. Bring the food down to the cellar. The book to the library. You are, of course, free to refuse and run back off into the woods. I'll do it. Alright. Then you take care of that. Hey. What is it? I just noticed there's something else in here. It's wrapped in cloth. What could it be? Ooh, a painting. For you to hang up somewhere in the house, I presume. It's so dark, I can't see it very well, but I'm sure it's... Don't touch that. What? Michelle, who had kept his distance from me until that point, suddenly marched over and ripped the painting from my grasp. Master? His face was twisted into a look I had never seen him make before. Was it indignation, disgust, hatred, panic? I couldn't tell, but there's more than enough negative pressure to cause me to flinch back. Is that painting perhaps, something important? Landscape painting, he muttered under his breath, the tension melting away from his face. I was left looking at his usual blank, impenetrable expression. But his eyes were still fixated on the picture, staring at it unblinkingly. Why a landscape painting? Some kind of passive-aggressive message? It's not of anywhere nearby. Did they travel somewhere? But it's not of that girl, so that's an improvement. Master? Oh, you're still here? Still here? Of course I'm still here. Who do you think you asked to take care of the package? What's with you, just running over and snatching the painting from me? You scared me. Could you maybe explain yourself? What's so special about that painting? I don't believe that's any of your business. None of mine. Of course it is. You ripped it out of my hands like I was some kind of thief. I have a right to know what that was all about. And maybe an apology while you're at it. You told me to open the box, so I did, and all of a sudden you're angry. We are not equals. Do not mistake yourself for my friend. You have a right to know. You have no such thing. You don't have to be rude. I'll say it again. Leave if you don't like it here. I never asked for you to be here. That was your wish. My wish. Are you out of your mind? I never asked for this. No, nobody asked. Everybody keeps not asking for this. Put on the sunglasses, I never asked for this. I never wished for it. Who in their right mind would want to be sent to some house in the middle of nowhere? Who would ever want to go through that? Calm down, Giselle. You can't get angry. You're right. That is what I wanted. But I never wanted to make you mad or for us to argue like this. I just want to get to know you better, to get closer to you. I mean, it will make things smoother for the both of us. It will make living together more enjoyable for us. Listen carefully. This is very important for you to understand. Do not try to involve yourself with me. Do not go probing around for information. If you can't do that, leave. I completely shut out. The glare he was giving me and the standoffish aura he was emanating were reflected in his tone of voice. Why? Why do you try to push me away like that? It seemed Giselle really didn't know much about me. Despite being sent here from my house, she was unaware of the monthly deliveries as well as the reason why I lived in the mansion all by myself. Why, though, would they have not told her anything? Why had she been sent here left completely in the dark? Giselle looked up at me, fear and bewilderment in her eyes, though I thought I could see a glint of suspicion beneath it all. Like her true feelings were bubbling to the surface. Everyone had darkness in them they kept hidden. No one was exactly who they appeared to be. She was undoubtedly thinking I'm not here because I want to be. I knew from the moment I first saw her that her bubbly, sweet affect was all a facade, as she thought I was dense enough not to realize. She's no different than anyone else. What I didn't understand, though, was why she refused to leave no matter how hard I pushed. What was she hiding beneath that innocent-looking face? What was she thinking? What did she carry on her shoulders? Everyone is hiding something, deceiving those around them. Figure out what she really was. May I ask you something? Yes? On the day you arrived, you said you made a teeny tiny mistake while working at my family's house. Tell me about that. What did you do at the Bollinger estate? Bollinger? That's his name? Michelle Bollinger. I might be saying that wrong, but it sounds funny to me. Bollinger. Bollinger. In that moment, brief though it was, her disposition wavered. Fear? Terror? No. Perhaps anger. I couldn't tell. Nevertheless, it was abundantly clear that that was a subject she had no interest in me breaching. And so she had borne her fangs. The smile she donned now was visibly forced. It's nothing you need to concern yourself with, Master. I promise, it was an insignificant little thing. She couldn't say. Why couldn't she tell me? What has she done there? What did this woman know about that house? What did she know about me? What was concealed beneath that smile of hers? I am the master of this house and you are a servant, and still you refuse to tell me. Like I said, it's nothing. There's no reason to bother you. With a mere servant's personal blunders, Master. What are you hiding? I'm not hiding anything. Then you should be able to tell me exactly what you did at the Bollinger estate. Like I said, tell me. Tell me. You won't tell me anything about yourself. You demand others tell you about themselves. Here you are practically threatening me, demanding I tell you something I don't want to talk about. And you still haven't told me anything about the painting. Uh-huh, so I was right. You do have something to hide. How many times must I repeat myself? We're not equals. I don't care if it's insignificant or something you don't want to talk about. What? I'm ordering you to tell me. A trifling blunder will not get someone sent to live with a cursed man in a house spoken of so unfavorably. Whatever she had done at Bollinger estate, that has something to do with why she was here. If she truly hadn't done anything, then she has something to gain from this place or possibly from me. If that was the case, I had to get her to talk. Don't make me... Giselle's eyes were open wide. I recognized the look she was giving me. I knew very well what that gaze meant. You're an abomination. It was the same as them. Fear, contempt, revulsion, repulsion. The way she acted, the way she spoke, it was exactly the same. You're no different. I made her uncomfortable. I made her afraid. She thought I was unpleasant. She thought I was despicable. She thought I was. She thought I was an abomination. In a frenzy, I grabbed her by the shoulders, climbing down far more powerfully than I had meant to. Okay. I see. By the way, I don't think. I mean, he's already touching her. As I said before, in the first story, how he had like the touch of death. I don't think that's the case in this actual real story. That's not the reason why he's cursed. Because right now he's just, just touching her on the shoulders. Ow! Stop! Her face, contorted in pain, morphed into someone else's. Who was I directing my anger at? Or was his rage being aimed? Who are you calling an abomination? What? Tell me, who? The black fur bubbling up from within me knew no end. The girl, she ridiculed me. She denied my identity with her glare. I couldn't escape from that phantom, that reality. What are you? I never called you. No, get away from me. Get your hands off me. Giselle's scream echoed in the entrance hall, rattling my eardrums. She frantically smacked my arms aside, and I came back to my senses. She was standing a little ways away, breathing heavily, arms wrapped tight around her body, glowering at me, showing her opposition to my touching her. Enlightening. No. You just, you startled me, that's all. Some servant you are. Tell your master not to touch you. Alright, I have, I'm, allergic to people. Allergic to people. It's a very unique condition, I hear. I mean, can you believe that? See, you know how some people get all red and itchy when they touch a dog or a cat? It's that, except for people, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I beg your forgiveness. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird that she's saying, she's apologizing, but it's actually expected. She really is not an equal to him. But, you would think that Michelle's at fault, obviously. Just suddenly grabbing at her, you're like, come on. Anyway, why don't you speak your mind? What? This is what's going through your mind right now. I have nothing to apologize for. No, that's not. I can somewhat sympathize with your plight, being made to apologize even though you're hurting. I raised my hand against you first, after all. Then you forgive me? Sympathy does not equate to forgiveness. Now, you take care of the package. I'm heading back to my chambers. What is it? You're not going to make me leave after what I just did. No, I am not. Or it would seem I can make you leave on your own whenever I so please. Besides, I yet to learn what she had done. It would be exceedingly difficult to get a story from her own mouth, which left me one option: write a letter to my mother, as much as the very thought revolted me. Okay. Michelle's okay, he's kind of an asshole. As it turns out, kind of like all of them are assholes. I'm trying to think like all of the guys in the stories are just assholes, except maybe Mel. Mel was the only one who wasn't too much of an asshole for the most part. Unless that story was also fake, I'm not sure. Anyway, several days had passed since the package. 7 days had passed since the package arrived. The end of my third week living in the mansion was drawing near. Michelle wasn't getting any friendlier either. He continued to either snub or bluntly dismiss me whenever we crossed paths. I didn't understand why he acted that way around me, but there was little point in asking when he seemed to think there was little point in talking to me at all. Although at first I had been sure there was some way to get to him to warm up to me, the more time I spent in the mansion, the more my willpower began to feel like it was at its breaking point. I could tell myself to stay positive until I was blue in the face, but it would only work for so long. The one pretty place in the whole house. I'm glad he hasn't covered it back up. Blue moonlight shone quietly through the stained glass window, vaguely illuminating some of the room. I had noticed until now, but the room with the stained glass window appeared to be modeled after a chapel. Chapel. Rows of pew faced the window, below which sat what used to be a pulpit. There was very left of it, though, and an awkward length of silver was mounted to the pulpit's front face. What was, I assume, formerly a cross. Upon further reflection, rather than facing the window, the pews seemed to be pointed at the pulpit, or perhaps the cross hanging on it. I wasn't sure why there would be a chapel in the mansion, but I had no one to ask about it. For a house of this size, a statue of Christ or the Virgin Mary seems more appropriate. It's a very well-made chapel at any rate. I doubted Michel had had it built for himself. There would be no reason for him to cover the window if that were the case. Nor had I ever seen him come to pray. He doesn't seem like one to believe in God. God. I'm not even sure if God really existed, then surely the world would be a much more pleasant, peaceful place. No unfair disparities in money or power. No senseless misfortune. I certainly wouldn't have found myself here either. That's blasphemy. That's blasphemy, Giselle. You see, nobility have the divine right to be more powerful and richer than you. It's just, as intended, right? At least that's the idea at the time anyway, the cultural norm. But God was evidently quite fond of giving mankind trials, so he would probably tell me with a straight face that this was one too. Or perhaps we simply had a false impression of him, and he didn't actually give us anything. He merely sat back and watched from somewhere far, far away. It wasn't his job to bring peace to the world or ensure our laws were fair. That was all mankind's responsibility. What is God? What are angels? I have no idea. Maybe the Bible has answers. Why should I pray to someone so far away? How do I know my prayer is even getting there? But still, it's not like I have any other options. But don't you worry. It'll all work out, promise. How do you know where I'm going to work? It's a really prominent noble house, way out of reach of some small-time merchants like us. You never know. This could be my big break. Oh, I'm just kidding. Don't look so worried. I'll be fine. Honestly. I'll make enough money to get us back onto our feet. Oh, for goodness sake, I can handle it. Leave everything to me. You just wait. I'll make our family do something you can be proud of. I'll be fine. Yeah. Say bye to Mom for me. I probably won't be home for a while. What? You're afraid I'm going to make some careless mistake? I'm not that airheaded. It's ironic. I can be a refined, elegant young lady. Those nobles won't even know what to believe anymore. If you don't believe me, how about I give you a little taste? Him. How are you doing this fine morning, master? Your morning beverage is ready, prepared with the utmost of care. See, how about that? Not bad, huh? What? You'll take a sound force. Okay. I guess talking to her family there. I was the daughter of a merchant who ran a shop on the capital's main street. My father passed away in a plague, so it was just me, my mother, and my older sister. There'll be a lie to say business was doing well. We struggled to squeak by day to day after taxes, but we couldn't just abandon the shop and leave the capital either. So we tried to make the best of what we were able to take in between the three of us. Then my sister fell in love with a moderately well-off aristocrat. Both my mom and I were supportive of her in her desire to marry, but their union almost fell apart because she was not suitable for him. Merchants were hardly the lowest class. What we lacked instead was wealth. We needed another source of money, beyond what the shop took in. If only we had money, my sister could get married. If only we had money, my mom wouldn't have to work so hard. If only we had money. It was then that someone from the distinguished Bollinger estate approached me. He said they were in need of the Abigails and would love to have me. He said that if I agreed to work for them, the Bollinger estate would take care of my family. Generally speaking, noble houses took Abigails from other lower-ranked noble houses. It was unthinkable for someone of my status to receive such an offer. So I took it in as a once-in-a-lifetime chance and accepted the offer. I just pray that nothing bad happens to my sister, and that Mom is getting enough money to live comfortably. That's all I can do. They're nobility. They have plenty of money. Enough to spare some. Well, they wouldn't be nobility if they did not keep their money, though. The light shining through the stained glass window began to grow murky, fading into blackness. Felt like a message from on high, that no, my prayers would not be answered. The bluish-white illumination shining down upon me disappeared as clouds blocked the moon. Oh, come on. You don't even want to look at a sully woman like me? Oh, for heaven's sake. I never asked to end up like this. Oh, right to Michelle. They're nobility. They have plenty of money. Enough to spare some. Come on. You don't even want to look at a silly woman like me? For heaven's sake, it was the same line, but I guess from a different perspective. I never asked to end up like this. Michelle was sitting at one of the pews in the room with the stained glass window. I was just looking at her. You might have thought she was offering a prayer. With the words coming from her mouth were saying anything but prayerful. They were filled with resentment. They have plenty of money. A solid woman. Then I never asked to end up like this. So this is what's beneath that facade. Most likely money is what she's after. All I need to do now is confirm my suspicions with them. Just what awful secrets will I uncover? I gave Giselle, sitting in the pew with her head drooped, a cursory glance before leaving the chapel. I had somewhere else to be. The bitterly cold outside air felt like dozens of needles flowing into my lungs. It had been so long since I stepped beyond the mansion's walls. A thick mist canopied the night sky, blocking out the moonlight. Naturally, the heavens did not rejoice at my leaving the house. It had been 10 years since I had seen the mansion from the outside, and it had changed one bit. A gloomy scar upon the earth, shrouded in darkness. Hardly the kind of place someone would enthusiastically approach. Nevertheless, it was better than that house. Okay, so he's actually leaving. Interesting. Yes. Who is it? Michelle. What? Michelle Bollinger? Just one moment. I'll be right there. Come in. It's a humble abode, but make yourself at home. Whoa, I must say, this is rather unexpected. Just one word, I would have been up there in a heartbeat. And how I was supposed to do that? I am regrettably fresh out of carrier pigeons. Oh, right, yes. My apologies. This man, living in a small cottage not far from the mansion, had been hired by the Bollinger family. His job to watch over me. That said, we never actually interacted. He was tasked with keeping track of whether I was still alive and whether I remained in the mansion. A monthly package from my family was delivered to him, which he then passed on to me. It was insipidly convoluted, but it was indicative of how much they wanted to avoid anyone learning about me. Well then, what can I do for you? The manservant was visibly rattled, afraid too, but not because of the difference in our social ranks. I had a pretty good idea what he had been told about me. He was afraid of me, or more specifically, my curse. People fear that which they cannot comprehend, not just children, adults as well. They fear demons, witches, and curses, anything impure or not of this world. But I had long since gotten used to being viewed as such. It didn't sadden me, it didn't disappoint me, it didn't pain me. Some things were too foolish to concern yourself over. Though it certainly doesn't make me feel good either. I was on some level annoyed. That woman's appearance at the mansion had created ripples in my once tranquil life. So before I got to the real reason for my visit, I decided to take out a bit of my frustration. Okay. Raise your head. There's no need to be afraid. I don't know what you've been told, but I promise I don't bite. How rude of me. You're right. My sincerest apologies. Your job is to keep watch over me. The mere sight of me has you trembling. What will you do if I try to run? I have little trouble escaping. That'd be quite unfortunate. What would I ever tell your mother? I'm not sure that would end well at all. You could lose everything you've been paid so far. In fact, you might be lucky to get out of your life. Surely you and your mother would not. You're aware of who you're dealing with, right? Michelle, the cursed youngest son of the Bollinger family, who made a pact with the devil. I don't need a blade to take your life. You wouldn't even make it back to report anything. Have mercy, Lord Michelle. Please do not leave the mansion. Please spare me. Only joking. Okay. Oh, I was trolling, dude. Don't worry about it. I don't have the power to kill by way of curse. The man fell silent, but the look on his face said, You are cursed, though, aren't you? Once someone's got the idea of planning in their head, it's nigh impossible to get rid of it. I am so cursed that anyone can see it, that I need to be locked away in the dark mansion. I'm here because I had a question for you. Not to warn you that I plan to run away. Question? For me? Yes. Approximately 3 weeks ago, a black-haired woman came to the mansion. Tell me what you know about her. I was told there will be an Abigail coming, but that's all. I don't know anything else about her. I swear, that's all I know. I haven't been told anything else. I believe you. I never thought they would tell you anything. Right. He'd been hired to observe me, but that's all he was, a hired hand. He wouldn't be privy to the Bollinger's family internal affairs. Take this. Letter? I need you to deliver it to my mother. You could have just left it in the box from this month's package, and I would have collected when I dropped off the next one. I'm in urgent need of information. Will you do this for me? Yes, why yes, absolutely. I'll fetch your delivery boy tomorrow morning. Much appreciated. Good night. You too. Do take care. Okay. So again, this curse apparently is fake, or at least not the same one as, what we were told before. So it could just be a fabrication, and somehow everyone's believing it, I guess, because superstition. Lord Michelle, yes? Is it true that you don't have... Would you like me to sew your mouth shut so you can never open it again? No, not at all. My sincerest apologies, Lord Michelle. That was horribly disrespectful. Good night. You don't have what? What do you mean? First, I most certainly am. What does he not have? I don't know. My mother's response arrived just 10 days later. The delivery boy must have pushed his horse cart quite hard. It was almost exactly a month after Giselle had moved in. And shortly thereafter, on a bone-chilling night, everything came crashing down. The rift between us grew deeper, and the wall between us impossibly high. When I lay bare the scars in her chest, I mercilessly plunged my knife into them. Nah, wow, that sounds so ominous. You know? It's not as nice as the, the other story, I guess, involving Michelle. This Michelle is much more ruthless, it seems. How did we get to this point? I hate everything. My spirits were getting darker and darker, like they were slowly sinking into a deep morass. I have been in the mansion for a month, and every day since felt twice as long as should have. I had been optimistic at first. I even had a little hope that me and Michelle could get along together. But it hadn't taken long for that hope to be shattered, and the chair locked away inside me. We lived in the same house, but we never spoke anymore. On the few occasions we did cross paths, he just gave me a cold glare and nothing more, scorn and suspicion in his eyes. Whenever he looked at me like that, it felt as though my throat was being constricted, like I was deep underwater, running out of air. Like my very presence in the world was a crime. I never could have imagined just how agonizing constant rejection was. I started despising others, despising myself, despising the world, convinced there was no one who could set me free. I considered running away from everything, rather than live like this another day, but I would have done so long ago if that was actually an option. If they found out I had fled, that I had acted outside their wishes, my mom and sister would pay. I had succeeded in allowing my sister to get married, my mom to live comfortably. I had given them happiness. I couldn't take that away from them again, not after what I had to go through to do it. No, cut that out. Getting way too depressing, Giselle. Pull yourself together. That's not who you are. Be positive. The negativity didn't come only from my interactions with Michelle either. No, there seemed to be some kind of terrible presence within the mansion that twisted people's hearts. The mansion was in fact a bit of a local legend, which had been informed about before being sent here. People claimed it was cursed, and that an evil witch had lived in it for many, many years. Michelle joked that he was the witch, but I didn't believe him. I'm not usually one to believe in magical curses at all. Being here so long, I can't help but wonder. Anyway, things can't go on like this. If I was to remain in this house, the situation needed to improve. A lot. I was going to lose my mind if things kept up as they were. I was ready to give up once. I'm going to try closing the distance between us again. If I could get him to open up even a tiniest bit, then maybe that would make living here a little easier. I was going to try to make us best friends or anything, just repair our relationship enough that being around each other wasn't torturous. I've got my work cut out for me. How do I even begin the conversation? Heck, what is that conversation even going to be about? Maybe I should hold off to do it another day. No, I've made my mind to do this, so I should get to it quickly. The longer I wait, the worse things are going to get. And eventually there won't be any fixing anything. We need to talk. We need to be in the same room for more than 10 seconds, and we need to get to know each other. He needs to know that he's not the reason I have something to hide. Okay, let's do this. I made my way to Michelle's chambers, which she had told me to stay away from. My stride was slow and ponderous, but at the very least I did my best to keep some semblance of a smile on my face. Okay, interesting. I remember this happening in the other story, but obviously the context is different. Different person. This is one time where I will really like to have someone give me a little nudge. Breathe in, breathe out. Okay. Pardon, Master. There's something I'd like to talk to you about. Master? I guess he's not here. The door wasn't locked. As was the rest of the house, his room was shrouded in darkness. The only light came from the candle in my hand. Master, are you there, Master? I guess I missed him. It's probably best if I don't stick around for long. He's already got less than a stellar impression of me. I don't want to imagine what happened if he thinks I've been snooping on through his room. Yeah, I should get out of here. I spun around my heels, taking a step toward the door, when I caught sight of an object draped in a black sheet. Uh-oh. This is definitely gonna lead to a misunderstanding. Well, I knew I had to get out of there as quickly as possible, but I was intrigued by that object. Uh-oh. He's gonna waltz right in. He's like, "What are you doing in my room? I told you to stay out." And then bad things are gonna happen. Something kept hidden in the room I was forbidden to enter. Maybe it was a clue to discovering Michelle's secrets. I reached my hand down toward the object, knowing good and well I shouldn't. Was it because I wanted to learn more about him? Was it because I wanted to tear down the veil he hid behind? Or was it the whispers of the witch? What do we have here? I pulled off the sheet, revealing a framed painting of what appeared to be a noblewoman with porcelain white skin. Is it the white-haired girl? What stood out about her, though, was that the woman's hair was as pale as her skin. And then... What? I noticed something else. Wide gashes ravaged the canvas, damaging her face beyond repair. What the? I imagined it had once been a painting of a beautiful woman, but there was hardly a trace of that left. The only feeling it inspired anyone was a deep chill. This damage was not accidental. It was deliberate, angry, and the contempt emanating from within the frame was stifling. Did Michelle do this? Thick, suffocating blackness seeped into me. Why would anyone? She was surely a most beautiful woman, angelic even. A storm of questions assaulted me. Who was she? Why had her face been carved up? Why had the painting been covered? What had happened? Who could have... There's only one person who could have done this. Michelle. Why on earth? You saw it, didn't you? You saw the painting, didn't you? You entered my room without permission, and you saw the painting, didn't you? Angelic, you say? There's nothing angelic about that damn woman. I scrambled to make some excuse, but nothing could come out of my mouth. All I could do was tremble. Well, it's a knife. Why did you enter my chambers? What were you looking for? Answer me. My mouth wouldn't move properly. I couldn't make my voice come out. It was like I wasn't even my own body anymore. The wisps of air that were drawn to my lungs were expelled a hoarse gas. You know, it's funny because to be honest, Michelle was actually one of my favorite characters, so far in the fourth story, but this one, not so much. He's still interesting, it's just, definitely much more villainous than he seemed to be in the fake story, as it turns out. My breaths were shallow and rapid. I was inhaling, but I wasn't getting any air. I was terrified. Terrified of his eyes, of his voice, of his feelings, of the knife he was holding up to me. The terrible past was changed to the man's voice, the man's very flesh. It terrified me. What were you trying to find, and what were you planning to do with it? Answer me. I don't think you refuse to tell me then. No, I'm trying. Nothing's coming out of my mouth though. Everything's so bright. I can't catch my breath. I can't breathe. It's fine though. You don't have to tell me. I have a pretty good idea. An idea? What do you mean? Money is what brought you to the Bellinger estate. It's what brought you to me too. There are countless people who would love to see that house fall. And a noble family fears nothing more than disrepute. You were, I presume, approached by someone scheming the Bellinger's downfall. No. As just so happens, the Malingers have a very unfortunate secret, one they are quite desperate to keep under wraps. Me. Someone suspected that I might still be alive. They sent you to dig up information about me. My very existence threatens to tear down that house. The cursed youngest son of the Malinger family, Michelle, who made a pact with the devil, who is supposed to be dead, was very much alive. You sweet-talked your way into that house, and it's for information about me and my present situation, and you meant to trade that information for money. I bet whoever it was put quite a handsome price on it too. Or maybe the one plotting to ruin the Malinger family is you. No, that's not true. Then enlighten me. Please, hear me out. I didn't know anything about you. I wasn't sniffing around or trying to bring you harm in any way. Then tell me. If that's not the reason you wormed your way into the Malinger estate, that's not what you're doing here, then tell me what it is. Tell me why you came to this mansion. You want me to tell you about that? No way. It's asking way too much. Tell me. I swear, I haven't done anything wrong to wrong you. I simply wanted to make our life together a little more comfortable, to bring some warmth to this frigid relationship we have. That's the only reason I wanted to find out more about you. I must assume I'm right then, Giselle. I must tell him he's wrong. I must tell him I mean no harm, but I can't say anything. A merchant's daughter became an Abigail in a noble house. Could you come up with a more obvious lie? Your father's the one who... Wait, how does he know that I'm from a merchant family? You look perplexed. I may be imprisoned in this house, not free to move about as I please, but I have my ways. I know everything. Everything. And he knows about that too. Oh yes, I do know. But please, don't. In your quest for money. Say it. You slept with my father. Okay. In that moment, Michel plunged his knife into my heart. Hopefully metaphorically? I think it's a metaphor, right? He didn't literally plunge the knife through her heart. He carved through my chest with those words, causing me to completely lose control of myself. In a panic frenzy, and probably screaming all the way, I knocked the man aside, and ran and ran and ran. And I ran so far away. I could hear a clap of thunder in the distance. Oh, how I wish the bolt of lightning will come crashing down upon me. Maybe if God burned my tainted flesh with divine thunderbolt, I would get rid of some of that filth. The jagged streaks of light cascading across the dark clouds did not strike me, only creating restless grumbles in the sky. Okay. I mean, yeah. I guess she slept with his father. That doesn't seem so bad. I mean, well, I guess maybe we'll see more of the context why that's bad. I mean, I don't know. That's actually quite common, you know? Especially, obviously, if you're nobility, you own a bunch of servants, obviously. Things like that are gonna happen. Anyway. I'm running away. Why? I knew that if I fled that mansion, I would likely be causing trouble for my mom and sister. I was helpless to stop myself. All I could do was run from all that threatened me with no regard for the consequences. For long, small droplets of rain began falling, which soon grew heavy enough to penetrate the forest canopy and reach the ground where I stood. The downpour drowned out my tears and my cries, because I rushed from the mansion without even putting on a cloak. Each cold winter droplet stung bitterly against my flesh, but the bite of the rain was like a warm embrace compared to what I've been through before. Michelle has spoken the truth. As much as I wanted to deny it, to avert my eyes, reality was forever engraved in this body. No, I don't want to think about it. I had no say in the matter. Get out of my head! Apparently, though, it causes her great pain. So I've had to guess this is not what Giselle, she didn't slept with the guy just because she wanted to. I've had to guess. I guess we'll see. This might be a flashback.